She was just the new cheerleader, yearning to belong until Lincoln High's reigning bullies turned her world upside down. What they hadn't realized was her father was no ordinary dad. He was a powerful figure who didn't tolerate threats to his own. Keisha Dawson's first day at Lincoln High in Boise, Idaho, was a far cry from her dreams. She'd envisioned a clean slate, a chance to shed her past and build anew. But as she stepped through the school doors, the roar of hundreds of students enveloped her, and the crushing weight of being the new girl settled firmly on her shoulders. She tightened her backpack strap, scanning the chaotic hallway. Faces blurred. Some curious, some indifferent, a few barely hiding their judgment. Keisha was used to attention, but this felt different. Here she was an outsider, the only black girl in a sea of unfamiliar faces. She took a deep breath, recalling her purpose. Cheerleading was her haven in Albuquerque. It was where she felt powerful, self-assured, and in command. Her flips and stunts weren't just routines. They were her declaration of belonging. So, spotting the cheerleading tryouts on the bulletin board, she knew she had to go for it. The gym buzzed with energy that afternoon. Girls stretched, practiced, and whispered in tight circles. Keisha found a spot near the back, beginning her warm-up. Her heart pounded, not from nerves, but the sheer thrill of being back where she belonged. When Coach Thompson's whistle pierced the air, everyone lined up. "Show me what you've got," the coach commanded, eyes sharp. Keisha flowed through her well-rehearsed routine. High jumps, clean landings, a steady smile. A few girls nodded approval. But from the gym's corner, two figures watched with something akin to contempt: Trent Holloway and Dax Mercer. The varsity basketball stars. Trent, the arrogant point guard known for getting his way, and Dax, the massive power forward who blindly backed him up. They were accustomed to being the center of attention on and off the court. A new cheerleader, especially one who didn't fit their mold, was a challenge they wouldn't ignore. After tryouts, Trent sauntered over as Keisha gathered her things. "Hey, new girl," he smirked, a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Think you can keep up with us?" Keisha met his gaze steadily. "I'm not here to keep up. I'm here to do my best." Dax chuckled from behind Trent. "Bold words. We'll see how long that confidence lasts." Keisha dismissed the comment, walking away, but she felt their eyes burning into her back. It wasn't just a challenge, it was a warning. The next few days were a whirlwind of classes, practice, and hushed conversations. Keisha noticed Trent and Dax's group smirking as she passed, catching snippets of their mockery about her routines, questioning her place on the team. School wasn't the welcoming haven she'd hoped for. One afternoon, alone on the bleachers after practice, her phone buzzed. It was her dad, Malik Dawson. "Hey baby girl, how's the first week?" Keisha smiled, quickly typing back, "It's okay. Tougher than I thought." Malik's reply was instant. "Remember, you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone dim your light." His words were a comfort, but they also reminded her of the complex life waiting in Albuquerque. Malik wasn't just any dad. He was a man with a reputation stretching far beyond the city limits, an empire builder in the shadows, known to some as King Dawson. Keisha had grown up with stories about him, stories she tried to distance herself from. Here in this new school, she just wanted to be Keisha, the girl who loved cheerleading, who wanted friends, who yearned to belong. Yet as the days passed, it became clear Trent and Dax wouldn't make it easy. Subtle glances sharpened into pointed comments. Whispers grew louder, and the feeling of being watched never faded. One afternoon, Keisha caught Trent and Dax laughing, looking at her phone from across the hall. Her heart pounding, she hurried away. It was the start of something she couldn't name, but she knew it wasn't good. Little did Keisha know, this was only the prelude to a battle that would test her strength, loyalty, and sense of justice. The real trouble began at cheerleading practice. Keisha had made the team, a small victory that briefly lifted her spirits. But the moment she entered the gym, she felt the shift. Trent and Dax, with their clique, seemed to have made it their mission to make her life miserable. Coach Davison, well-meaning but oblivious, was focused on preparing the squad for regionals, pushing them hard, demanding precision and teamwork. Yet amidst the rigorous routines, subtle digs and underhanded tactics began. During a challenging stunt, Dax accidentally bumped Keisha, throwing her off balance. She landed awkwardly, twisting her ankle. "Oops, sorry," he smirked. "Didn't see you there." Keisha bit back a retort, limping to the sidelines, trying to ignore the snickers from Trent and his friends. Mrs. Davison, preoccupied, barely noticed. The harassment escalated. Keisha's water bottle vanished, replaced by a murky, foul-smelling liquid. Her gym bag was mysteriously emptied, belongings scattered. During a break, she overheard Trent and Dax spreading rumors. "Did you hear about Keisha's old school?" Trent said loudly, ensuring she could hear. "Apparently she got kicked off the cheer team for causing trouble." Dax chimed in, "Yeah, something about stealing money from the fundraising account." Keisha's cheeks burned. The rumors were utterly false. She'd left Albuquerque to escape her father's shadow, not for any wrongdoing. But Trent and Dax didn't care about truth. They were determined to brand her an outsider. She confronted them after practice, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you?" Trent shrugged, eyes cold. "We're just having a little fun. You need to learn to take a joke." Dax added, "Maybe if you weren't so desperate for attention we'd leave you alone." Keisha wanted to lash out, but she knew it wouldn't help. They were trying to provoke her, make her lose control. She turned, walking away, refusing to give them the satisfaction. Walking home that evening, the day's weight settled on her. She thought of her dad, his sacrifices for her better life. She couldn't let Trent and Dax ruin everything. She had to find a way to stand up to them, to prove she wouldn't be bullied. She focused on cheerleading, practicing relentlessly, pushing herself. She tried to befriend other girls, offering support. But no matter how hard she tried, the feeling of being watched, of Trent and Dax lurking, never faded. One evening, tumbling in her backyard, her neighbor Mrs. Ramirez called out, "You've got a lot of fire in you, Keisha. Don't let anyone put it out." Mrs. Ramirez's words sparked hope. She wasn't alone. People believed in her. She just had to tap into that strength. But as Keisha prepared to face her tormentors, she had no idea their actions were about to cross a line, igniting events that would change her life forever. The locker room was now a battleground. Trent and Dax's harassment campaign had intensified, turning daily routines into minefields of anxiety and humiliation. It began subtly, missing gym shoes reappearing soaked or dirt-filled, her cheer uniform mysteriously altered causing snickers, her lunch replaced with bizarre concoctions. But pranks were just the surface. The real damage was done through whispers and carefully crafted rumors, designed to shatter Keisha's confidence and isolate her. Trent and Dax had enlisted their friends to spread lies, twisting every action and word. One day, Keisha entered the locker room to find her name scrawled across the mirror in bright red lipstick, accompanied by crude slurs. Her heart pounded, hands trembling as she tried to wipe away the hateful words. "Having a bad day, Keisha?" Trent said, sauntering in with Dax. "Maybe you should just quit. Save yourself the embarrassment." Keisha refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. She straightened her shoulders, meeting Trent's gaze with a defiance she didn't feel. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, barely a whisper. The locker room became a hotbed of paranoia. Keisha felt constantly watched, every move scrutinized. She started avoiding it, changing in the bathroom or skipping practice altogether. The constant stress took its toll on her performance. Her jumps lacked height, landings were shaky, routines full of mistakes. Mrs. Davison, increasingly frustrated, began singling her out. "Keisha, you need to focus," she snapped during practice. "You're letting the team down." Keisha's eyes welled, but she bit back a response. Mrs. Davison didn't understand, blind to the bullying tearing the team apart. One afternoon, scrolling social media, Keisha stumbled upon a fake profile created in her name, filled with embarrassing photos and fabricated stories designed to humiliate her. The final straw came during a pep rally before a big basketball game. As Keisha and the cheerleaders took the stage, someone released a swarm of crickets from the rafters. Crickets landed on the cheerleaders, causing chaos. Keisha, already on edge, froze in terror as they swarmed. Trent and Dax pointed and laughed, faces contorted with glee. A wave of humiliation washed over Keisha. She couldn't take it. She ran off stage, tears streaming, fleeing the gym. She didn't stop until she reached home, collapsing on her bed in a sobbing mess. That night, Keisha stared at her reflection, eyes red and swollen. She barely recognized the girl staring back. The confident cheerleader was gone, replaced by someone broken. But as Keisha contemplated giving up, a flicker of anger ignited. She couldn't let Trent and Dax win. She had to fight back, reclaim her life and dignity. The floodgates opened the moment Keisha heard her father's voice. Normally, she'd shield him from high school dramas, not wanting him to worry from Albuquerque about things he couldn't control. But the dam had finally broken. "Hey baby girl," Malik said, his voice warm and familiar through the phone. "How was school today?" Keisha sniffled, trying to compose herself. "It was okay, Malik." A seasoned reader of his daughter's emotions, Malik wasn't fooled. "Keisha, what's wrong? You don't sound okay." She hesitated, then the words spilled out, a torrent of frustration and pain. She told him about Trent and Dax. The pranks, the rumors, the constant humiliation. She described the locker room graffiti, the crickets at the pep rally, the consuming isolation. As she spoke, Malik's voice grew colder, his easygoing tone replaced by a quiet intensity Keisha knew too well. It was the voice of King Dawson, the man who commanded respect and instilled fear. "Those boys are bullying you?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. "Dad, it's just high school stuff." Keisha tried to downplay it. "I can handle it." "No, you shouldn't have to handle it," Malik retorted. "No one should have to go through that. Tell me their names. Tell me everything they've done." Keisha hesitated. She knew what Malik was capable of, and she didn't want him to resort to violence or intimidation. But she also knew he wouldn't let this go. He would do whatever it took to protect her. She told him everything. The names, the details, the impact the bullying had on her confidence in cheerleading. As she spoke, she could almost feel Malik's anger radiating through the phone. When she finished, there was a long silence. Keisha held her breath. Finally, Malik spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I'm going to take care of this, Keisha. I promise you those boys won't bother you again." "Dad, please don't do anything crazy," Keisha pleaded. "I don't want you getting involved." "I'm not going to do anything crazy," Malik assured her. "I'm just going to have a little chat with them. Make them understand the importance of respect." Keisha wasn't convinced. She knew Malik's idea of a chat could be very different from hers. She begged him to stay away, to let her handle it, but Malik was adamant. "I'm your father, Keisha. It's my job to protect you, and I'm not going to stand by and let those punks make your life miserable." The conversation ended with Keisha more anxious than ever. She had unleashed something she couldn't control, fearing the consequences. She knew Malik's intentions were good, but his methods were often questionable. That night, Keisha tossed and turned, imagining Malik confronting Trent and Dax, shuddering at what might happen. She knew her father's actions could have unintended consequences, affecting not only Trent and Dax but also herself and her family. But as Keisha worried, Malik was already setting his plan in motion, initiating events that would expose Lincoln High's dark underbelly and the lengths a father would go to protect his daughter. The message landed like a cold slap. Trent Holloway, cocky as ever, sauntered into the locker room for basketball practice. He swung open his locker, expecting the usual mess of jerseys and sneakers. Instead, a single, pristine white envelope lay on the top shelf. Curious, he ripped it open. Inside, a single sheet of heavy, expensive paper bore a stark message, typed in bold black letters. "Leave my daughter alone. King." Trent's bravado wavered. He glanced around, a knot of unease tightening. Dax Mercer, his constant shadow, noticed his discomfort. "What's up?" Dax asked, brow furrowed. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Trent wordlessly handed him the note. Dax read it, a slow smirk spreading. "King? What kind of name is that? Sounds like some cheesy rapper." "I don't know, man," Trent said, a flicker of genuine concern in his eyes. "It feels weird. Like a threat." "Relax," Dax scoffed. "It's probably just Keisha's dad. Some overprotective loser trying to scare us." They crumpled the note and tossed it, dismissing it as a joke. But the seed of doubt was planted. Trent couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. That night, as Trent proudly cruised through Boise in his brand-new sports car, a gift from his wealthy parents, he noticed a dark sedan tailgating him. He sped up, trying to lose it, but the sedan stayed glued to his bumper. Finally, he pulled over, heart pounding. The sedan screeched to a halt behind him. Two figures emerged, faces obscured by darkness. Trent tensed, ready for a fight. But before he could react, they sprayed the car with black paint, shattering the windows, slashing the tires and emblazoning "respect" across the hood in massive bold letters. Trent watched in stunned silence as the figures sped away, leaving him stranded, his prized possession ruined. He called the police but knew it was pointless. No witnesses, no leads, no way to prove who was behind it. The next morning, Trent arrived at school simmering with rage. He found Dax pale and shaken. "You won't believe what happened," Dax whispered. "Someone trashed my house last night. Eggs on the windows, spray paint on my mom's car. It was insane." Trent and Dax exchanged a look of dawning realization. This was no coincidence. This was a coordinated attack, a clear message. They had crossed the wrong person. They found Keisha in the hallway surrounded by friends. Trent stormed towards her, fists clenched. "Is this your dad doing all this?" he demanded, voice trembling. "Is he trying to scare us?" Keisha met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice steady. "Don't lie." Trent shouted. "This is your dad's fault. He's trying to ruin our lives." Keisha remained silent, but Trent saw a flicker in her eyes. Fear perhaps, or even a trace of satisfaction. As Trent and Dax grappled with the escalating consequences, they had no idea this was just the beginning of a carefully orchestrated plan, designed to strip them of their power, privilege, and everything they held dear. The atmosphere at Lincoln High shifted palpably. Unease replaced the usual carefree exuberance. The basketball team's winning streak, once the school's pride, faltered as Trent and Dax grew distracted and out of sync. Their arrogance, once intimidating, now seemed a fragile facade, barely concealing their growing fear. The first domino fell during a crucial basketball game, one that would determine their state championship chances. Dax, typically dominant, was abruptly benched minutes before tip-off. Coach Thompson, visibly uncomfortable, announced the school board had received concerning information about some of Dax's past social media posts. The long-buried posts, now resurfaced, contained offensive and racially insensitive comments. The revelation sent shockwaves. Dax, once celebrated, was now branded a bigot. The board launched an immediate investigation. Dax was suspended. Trent watched in disbelief as Dax was led off the court, face a mask of humiliation. He knew this was no coincidence. Someone was deliberately targeting them, systematically dismantling their lives. The scrutiny intensified. Rumors circulated about Trent's academic performance. Whispers of plagiarism and cheating, long ignored, were now investigated. His prestigious university scholarship offers evaporated, replaced by polite rejections. Then came the video, grainy security footage of Trent shoplifting a designer watch. It went viral, further tarnishing his reputation and jeopardizing his future. Trent vehemently denied it, claiming he'd forgotten to pay, but no one believed him. The evidence was damning. Trent and Dax found themselves ostracized by friends, family, and community. Those who had praised them now viewed them with suspicion. Their carefully constructed world crumbled, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. Desperate, they turned to each other, but even their friendships strained under the pressure. They argued, blamed, and accused, their bond weakening with each setback. One evening, Trent received a cryptic text from an unknown number. "Remember the note? King always keeps his promises." Trent's blood ran cold. He finally understood the full extent of the threat. This wasn't just pranks or vandalism. This was revenge, calculated and relentless. He called Dax, his voice trembling. "We need to do something," he said, "before it's too late." But as Trent and Dax desperately sought a way to stop their lives from unraveling, they were walking blindly into a trap, designed to expose their deepest flaws and force them to confront their actions' consequences. The tension in the school halls was palpable. Trent and Dax, once untouchable kings, now moved cautiously, their swagger replaced by wary glances. The weight of their collapsing reputations pressed down like a storm cloud. One afternoon, their simmering frustration reached a boiling point. They spotted Keisha near the cafeteria, surrounded by friends. Trent's jaw clenched. He motioned to Dax and they approached her, faces hard. "Keisha," Trent called, loud enough to draw attention. "We need to talk." Keisha looked up, guarded but calm. "What do you want?" Dax stepped forward, fists clenched. "Is this your dad's doing? The threats, the vandalism, the rumors? You're ruining our lives." Keisha met their accusations steadily. "My dad isn't spreading those rumors or vandalizing your stuff. But if you think you can bully me and get away with it, you're wrong." Trent scoffed. "You think you're better than us now because your dad's some big shot?" Keisha's voice was low but fierce. No. I'm better than you because I don't need to tear others down to feel powerful. Dax's face twisted with anger. You don't get it. We didn't start this to hurt you. You just can't take a joke. Keisha shook her head. It's not a joke when it ruins someone's life. A crowd had gathered, sensing the confrontation. Whispers spread. Some sided with Keisha, others with Trent and Dax. Most watched in stunned silence. Trent leaned in, his voice a harsh whisper. You think your dad can protect you? You're playing a dangerous game. Keisha held his gaze, unflinching. Maybe. But I'm done being afraid. Suddenly Dax's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, face draining of color. We need to get out of here, he muttered. As Trent and Dax hurried away, Keisha felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. The confrontation had been inevitable, but she knew it was far from over. That night Trent and Dax met at Dax's house, their once safe haven now feeling like a prison. Trent slammed his fist on the table. We can't keep living like this. My life's falling apart. Dax nodded grimly. We need to find out who's behind this and stop it before it gets worse. Trent's eyes narrowed. It's got to be King Dawson. That guy's not messing around. Dax swallowed hard. If that's true, we're in way over our heads. The boys sat in silence, the weight of their situation sinking in. They were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. But what Trent and Dax didn't realize was that Malik Dawson's approach wasn't about reckless vengeance. It was a calculated move, designed to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. The warehouse stood on the edge of Boise's industrial district. A hulking, abandoned building swallowed by the fog-thick night, muffling distant traffic and turning streetlights into pale orbs. Trent and Dax arrived, nerves taut, unsure if this was a trap or a chance to end their nightmare. The message they'd received earlier, meet me at the old warehouse. We need to talk. King. Simple but with an unmistakable weight that stirred fear in their guts. Stepping inside, the air was cold and stale. Shadows stretched across the cracked concrete floor. Malik Dawson emerged from the darkness, his presence commanding and calm. He was sharply dressed, his eyes keen and unreadable. Gentlemen, Malik said, voice steady but firm, thank you for coming. Trent swallowed hard, trying to mask his fear with bravado. What's this about? Malik's gaze flicked between them. I'm here because my daughter, Keisha, has been subjected to your cruelty. The bullying, the pranks, the rumors. You've made her life miserable. Dax shifted nervously. Look man, we didn't mean for it to get this far. It was just high school stuff. Malik's eyes narrowed. High school stuff? You think humiliating a young woman, breaking her spirit is just stuff? You're wrong. A long silence ensued. Trent and Dax exchanged uneasy glances. Malik continued, I'm not here to hurt you physically. Violence isn't my way. But I am here to make sure you understand the consequences of your actions. He motioned to two men behind him who stepped forward holding folders filled with documents, photos and videos. These are records of your behavior, Malik said, flipping through files. Your social media posts, your academic dishonesty, your criminal acts. I've shared these with the school board, the police and your families. Trent's face paled. You did this? Malik nodded. I made sure the truth came out. You wanted to play games. Now you're playing by different rules. Dax clenched his fists. What do you want from us? Accountability, Malik said simply. You will face the consequences. Suspensions, investigations and if necessary legal action. But more importantly you will learn respect. Trent's voice cracked. You can't do this. We're not criminals. Malik's smile was cold. Maybe not yet. But your actions have consequences and I'm here to make sure you don't forget that. As Malik turned to leave he paused. Keisha is stronger than you think. Don't mistake her silence for weakness. Trent and Dax were left alone, the weight of Malik's words pressing down. For the first time, they truly understood that their actions had consequences far beyond the schoolyard. Outside Malik's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Good work. Keep it clean. Malik pocketed the phone, disappearing into the night, knowing this was only the beginning of a long road toward justice and healing. But even Malik Dawson hadn't anticipated how far-reaching the fallout would be, or how it would force everyone involved to confront uncomfortable truths about power, privilege, and redemption. News of Malik Dawson's intervention ripped through Boise. Whispers first filled Lincoln High's halls. Rumors about the mysterious king who defended his daughter. Some admired Malik's fierce loyalty, seeing him as a protector against bullying. Others warned of his reputation, the underworld ties that unnerved many. Local news caught wind, headlines splashing across websites. Notorious King Dawson's daughter targeted by bullies, and Boise High School's dark drama. When justice goes beyond the classroom. The story divided the community. Supporters praised Malik's actions as a father's rightful defense. Critics condemned him for taking matters into his own hands, warning of vigilante justice. But consequences extended beyond gossip or news. The FBI, already monitoring Malik's past, intensified their investigation. His sudden appearance in Boise and aggressive tactics were seen as potential signs of renewed criminal activity. Agents quietly interviewed students, teachers and community members, piecing together the unfolding events. Keisha found herself in an unexpected storm. While appreciating her father's protection, she was horrified by his methods. The school environment grew tense. Some students avoided her out of fear, others out of curiosity. The cheerleading team fractured, loyalties shifting. The basketball team's downfall became a cautionary tale. At home the atmosphere was heavy. Malik's presence loomed large, and Keisha struggled to reconcile the man she loved with the man who operated in shadows. One evening, after a particularly difficult school day, she sat across from him. "Dad," she began hesitantly, "I know you were trying to protect me, but all of this, it's making things worse." Malik looked up, eyes softening. "I just want you to be safe, Keisha. No one should hurt my daughter." "I get that," she said, "but the way you're doing it, it's putting us both at risk. The FBI is watching. The school is in chaos and I'm stuck in the middle." Malik sighed deeply. "I didn't expect it to spiral like this. But sometimes you have to be the storm to clear the air." Keisha nodded, though her heart was heavy. She realized her father's protection came with a price she wasn't sure she was ready to pay. The days that followed brought more challenges. Malik's past dealings surfaced publicly, dragging Keisha's family into unwanted scrutiny. Friends distanced themselves. The school administration tightened its grip, threatening suspensions and expulsions for anyone involved in conflicts. Yet amidst the chaos, Keisha found moments of clarity. She began to understand that silence and submission weren't options. She needed to find her own voice, separate from her father's shadow, to reclaim her life and future. But the path ahead was uncertain, and Keisha knew the choices she made next would define not just her story, but the lives of everyone around her. The weight pressing down on Keisha felt heavier than ever. School was no longer just a place to learn or cheer. It had become a battleground, every step shadowed by whispers, stares, and the fallout from her father's actions. The divide between her and her classmates widened, and even some friends began to distance themselves. One afternoon, alone on the bleachers after practice, Keisha stared at the empty football field, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows. She thought about her choices, telling her father, letting him intervene, and now facing the consequences. Her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. "You're stronger than you know. Don't let them win." The message gave her a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she felt. That evening, Keisha made a decision. She couldn't let her father's past or the bullying define her future. She needed to take control, to speak out, not just for herself but for others who had been silenced. The next day she requested a meeting with the school counselor, Mrs. Harper. Nervously she explained everything. The bullying, the rumors, the pranks, how it had escalated beyond her control. Mrs. Harper listened intently, eyes filled with empathy. "Keisha, you're incredibly brave for sharing this. No one should have to go through what you've experienced." Together they developed a plan. Keisha would start an anti-bullying campaign at Lincoln High, creating a safe space for students to share their stories and support each other. She would speak at assemblies, write articles for the school newspaper, and work with teachers to foster a more inclusive environment. The first step was the school assembly. Standing before hundreds of students, Keisha's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Bullying isn't just a joke or a rite of passage," she said. "It's real and it hurts. It can break people down, make them feel invisible, and sometimes it can push them to the edge. But we have the power to change that." Her words resonated. Students nodded, some wiping away tears. For the first time in months, Keisha felt seen, not as a target but as a leader. The campaign gained momentum. Students from different backgrounds came forward to share experiences. Teachers began incorporating lessons on empathy and respect. Slowly, the toxic culture that had taken root started to shift. At home, Malik watched with a mixture of pride and sadness. He knew his methods had caused pain, but he also saw the strength his daughter was cultivating. One evening he told her, "You're doing what I couldn't. Fighting with your heart, not with fear." Keisha smiled, realizing that while her father's protection had been fierce, her own power came from courage and compassion. Her journey wasn't over. The scars of the past would remain. But she had found her voice, and with it, the chance to build a better future. Remember, standing up against bullying takes courage, but it can change lives. If you or someone you know is struggling, don't stay silent. Reach out, speak up, and be the change.